can you just join my team already? Well, hey guys, welcome back to another video. And today I want to talk about something, and that's between the difference between Imbibitor Lunae and Jing Liu and who is better. Because ever since Jing Liu came out, she's been regarded as one of the strongest DPS in the game and outclassing someone like Imbibitor Lunae of all units. So I want to talk about the strengths and weaknesses of both Jing Liu and Imbibitor Lunae, but there's a problem with this, and I don't have Imbibitor Lunae, and even if I get Jing Liu, I don't have enough time to make the video because it'll take a while to build she up. But there are workarounds around this, because for one, I'm not going to talk about the damage, I'm just going to talk about the strengths and weaknesses both Imbibitor Lunae have and Jing Liu have. Like the strengths Imbibitor Lunae have over Jing Liu and the strengths that Jing Liu has over Imbibitor Lunae. And of course I'll be discussing both of their weaknesses, of course. And thanks to some help with a certain friend of mine that Blade list, I was able to get this done much faster because he was able to help me out with a list of points I can use for both Imbibitor Lunae and Jing Liu, because for one, Imbibitor Lunae is like one of his main units he uses and he has a lot of knowledge on Jing Liu. So thanks to him, this video was possible. So with all that said, I think we should get discussing about Imbibitor Lunae and Jing Liu now.
If you wish to obstruct me, you'll have to do better.
Okay, for similarity, they have a lot in common because one, they're two destruction DPS that skills of attack that does insane amount of damage. They both have access to the 5-star icon, the Fall of an Eon, which you can get to S5 from the simulated universe. Both these units are considered hyper carries, so which means in the respective teams, they will always be doing like the majority of the damage most of the time. And also both these units feel so much better to play if you have a Fushan or Luocha on the team, because for one, because of their solo sustain capability, you can use more squishier support that can buff up your damage or make you do more damage, so very valuable. And the final thing they have in common that both of them have is that they both can bully Yangxing. Poor Yangxing, but otherwise they are very similar at character, but they also have a bunch of differences, so I think we should get to that right now.
The darkening mists shroud the radiant moon.
Okay, let's talk about the upside and downside of Jing Liu first. For the upside of Jing Liu, she's very easy to build speed on because one, she doesn't really care about the turn order, which is very valuable. Jing Liu can be very skill point efficient, so you can use another DPS like Blade, so you can make a double DPS comp, but generally the hyper carry variants are better. But if you want to use two DPS on the same team, Jing Liu can be one of the few units that actually can run like a double DPS comp. And Jing Liu's skill is very good because one, it frees all the enemies and you can swap out of it. You don't need to be on field, which is very nice. You don't need to use your basic attack, so you don't even need to level it, which is very nice. And the fact that she is such a free unit to build because the amount of crit rate you get is so nice, so it's very easy to build yourself a Jing Liu. And the last upside to Jing Liu is the fact that she is like the best user of Bronya, because one, obviously the crit damage is very nice and the damage bonus too, but the extra turns you give to your Jing Liu is very nice to get the staff, so she can get stricken with more, which is very nice. Okay, now to the downside. There's a few of them. Like for one, not a lot of bosses is weak to ice, and a lot of enemies can't even get weakness break because for one, ice enemies can't be frozen. So either that or you have to pair that up with the remnants part of Silver Wolf. Without help from Bronya or Tingyon, you have some downtime with your Jing Liu because for one, Tingyon energy is very valuable, and an extra turn Bronya gives really helps you get uptime, you can get stricken with Mara. And then Jing Liu gets so much attack when she's stricken with Mara. Attack buff not really that valuable, so you rather like something like damage bonus. So something like Tingyon can be effective, but the attack buff you kind of get diminishing returns with someone like Jing Liu. So like obviously you still use Tingyon on the team obviously, because if you don't have Bronya, Tingyon like the best way to get in high uptime because the energy she gives, which is very valuable, and Tingyon also boosts damage bonus as well. And the last downside to Jing Liu is the fact that even though she gets so much crit rate from her passive, you still need to build crit rate on her, which is not really a big deal but can be annoying sometimes. So but that's basically the upside and downside of Jing Liu. Now let's go on to Imbibitor Lunae and discuss his upside and downside now.
The consequences are mine to bear.
Okay, now we're on Imbibitor Lunae. We'll talk about his upside now. For one, he has full uptime on his DPS, assuming you have 3 skill points, so he had like no downtime if you play him correctly with a very skill point efficient team. A lot more bosses and enemies are weak to imaginary, which is very valuable to trigger weakness break, especially if you have that 4-piece imaginary set. Imbibitor Lunae can take much better advantage of attack boss other than Jing Liu because for one, he scales much better with attack. So you can use something like Tingyon or Asta very nicely if you have nothing else. His free to play teams are very nice because for one, you can just use Pela and Tingyon. And Pela been on the banner so many times and you can get she free from an event if you pick she, and Tingyon on the banner right now, so that's very solid. So that was Imbibitor Lunae upside. Now let's talk about Imbibitor Lunae downside. And the first downside is the fact that you have to build around his team comes to be very skill point efficient because one, you need to use 3 skill points to maximize all his damage. So you can't really use a DPS, but that's not really the big problem. The big problem is he can't really take advantage of wealth and civil. Because Civil Wolf, you ideally want to implant an imaginary weakness break, and you ideally will be using your skill a good amount of time. And wealth can be a good support for Imbibitor Lunae, but the problem with the wealth is you lose out on some of his damage because a chunk of his damage comes from his skill. And two, the reason why he's a good support for Imbibitor Lunae because one, he implants the imprisonment break effect without breaking shield, which is very nice. So you can take full advantage of the imaginary set because you need to get the 4-piece by implanting the imprisonment. But wealth can work with Imbibitor Lunae, but you'll be losing out on a lot of damage from wealth. And that plays to the next downside, the fact that if you don't have wealth on your team, sometimes Imbibitor Lunae damage will be some kind of conditional because for one, without wealth to implant the imprisonment, you need the weakness break, and depending on what enemy you fight that doesn't have a weakness to imaginary, you might not get the full advantage of the 4-piece, so that can be problematic but can be worked around for sure. And okay, for this last 2 downside, it kind of can be annoying, especially when you're trying to build him for the end game of this game, and that is his speed, because for one, he wants to have good speed, but at the same time, Imbibitor Lunae also wants to be the slowest in the turn order but want to have good speed at the same time. So you have to speed tune accordingly so you're the slowest thing on the field but have like 140 to 134 speed at least, so that could be a pain in the ass sometimes. So you need to speed tune in a way so you can be the slowest on the field with respectful speed, so that will be a challenge for sure. So if Imbibitor Lunae is the 3rd fastest, the 2nd fastest, or the fastest thing on the field, that can lose out on some damage because for one, that will affect the amount of skill points you get, so you have to be careful with that for sure. And that's about it for Imbibitor Lunae. Okay, we can move on now.
So I wield my blade to the very end.
Okay, for my final thoughts between Imbibitor Lunae and Jing Liu is the fact that they are very different characters with their own strengths and weaknesses. So they're strong in their own right, but I think Jing Liu is a bit better because one, even though Jing Liu doesn't have the nuking potential Imbibitor Lunae has, Jing Liu is very consistent, especially if you can get uptime on her Mara state. She can really wreak havoc for sure, but realistically, even though technically Imbibitor Lunae got power creep in a sense, they are 2 completely different units that you play completely differently and they express their damage in different ways. Imbibitor Lunae, you need to build a team that very skill point efficient, you can use 3 skill points so you can nuke everything on the field. And then Jing Liu can be very skill point efficient, so you can actually use any unit you want with her. A DPS, a very skill point heavy support, like a lot of things you can do with Jing Liu, and she can wreak havoc. So they're very different and you play them very differently. And even though Jing Liu technically power creep Imbibitor Lunae as the best destruction character in the game, Imbibitor Lunae is still the best imaginary DPS in the game, and hell, you can use them in 2 completely different things because they will like to use different units. And otherwise, Imbibitor Lunae not going anywhere. He is still staying there, acting strong as a really good carry for lots of people teams. So otherwise, I think that's it for today's video. So with all that said, I think that's everything I want to talk about for today's video. So with all that said, thank you so much for watching this video. I do appreciate it if you made it far. Let me know if you made it far and I'll heart your comment because I always appreciate supporting me. Let me know what you next and let me know what you guys think about it. You agree with me, disagree with me on this? Let me know down below because at the end of the day, I'm not gonna kill you. Meh, probably might kill you, but still comment anyway because of that stuff. But anyway, I'd like to thank my friend for helping me out with this list. Well, more like bullet points, but anyways, I do appreciate for you for sure. And I know you're watching this video, so thank you for sure. I appreciate you for sure. And with all that said, take care, love you guys, and I'll see you on the next video. Goodbye.